Hi again, it's Em from My Life Planned. Thank you for being here. All about the digital planning at the moment with the MakseLife launch. I've had a few people tell me that they are thinking of jumping to digital, or people asking about a bit more information about how the digital works. So I thought I would do a little plan with me tutorial style about how I use the goal setting component. I am a planner lover and I don't always use the weekly or daily planning pages, but I always use the goal setting pages. So let's get to it. This year I'm in the portrait planner, and what it means is your monthly goals are spread over 2 pages, which is no issue, but it is just different to how it looks on the landscape planner. For example, let's have a look at the week. Both pages are spread over a 2-page spread, and the month is on an open page spread too. So it is a little bit different having it over 2 pages. And when I'm doing my weekly actions, instead of having to jump between pages, I like to use a split screen. To do the split screen, you click the 3 boxes, do split view, and then you open GoodNotes again, and it opens up to this week's weekly reflections, which is followed by the weekly actions for next week. So I'm not going to fill in my weekly reflections on camera because they are just a bit too personal, and I share a lot on the internet, but definitely not everything. But I will write my wins, what's working, what's not working, my lessons and my adjustments. Sometimes my wins are pretty basic, like cooked myself a healthy dinner. In hindsight, it's easy to say that, but sometimes it's like the biggest challenge of your day is the simple thing. So sometimes wins are really big. Maybe you got a promotion at work, but sometimes, just the day-to-day is your wins. What's working, I often think about my routines, like something that's been really helpful for me, my meal prepping in terms of chopping up and prepping all my veggies for the next few days and having them in separate containers. So when I get home from work, I can put them straight in the steamer. Sometimes just doing that a little bit of looking after future me is what's working. What's not working, again, sometimes it's something really big, sometimes it's small, sometimes it's realizing that you're kind of falling into a certain type of routine that's really not allowing you to show up for yourself. Lessons, like a broken record. Sometimes it's big, sometimes it's small, and then adjustments are the moves that you're going to make to change your next week. I know it might seem tempting to skip these weekly reflections, but it is where the growth is, it's where the magic is, especially when you are doing it in the moment before you move into your weekly actions. What's working, you can take into your weekly actions. What's not working, maybe you reflect on your goals for that month and you think, I'm going to change that goal. And importantly, those lessons and adjustments, anything that you need to shift for the next week, it makes sense to be thinking about that right before you move into your weekly actions for the next week. So this is the view that I like to have. I have my goals open on one side, and then I have my corresponding weekly actions. So if I'm looking at my October goals, skincare, my goal for my skincare is actually to be doing it for my face and body, just making sure that I've got the right pen settings here. No, 0.15. So skincare, face and body, my PM routine, and planning. So I'm going to change from planning to plan tomorrow each day, and then my 10 p.m. bedtime. Now, once I look at this, I'm going to grab my highlighters, and I might use the bolder color, and I am using the one in the middle. So I'm going to use my highlighter to put in my checkpoints, and for some of them I might want to track. So my 10 p.m. bedtime, I'm going to change the color again. So how I would do that, if I think I've got Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and then Sunday, and then I will go in and then I will put the actual days, and then when it happens, I will put a line through it, or I'll put a tick through it, whatever it is. That is not a tick. So, but it means I've got my tracker. Next area, fun and recreation. Holidays are over, sadly, so that's not going to be on my weekly actions, and I have not started a book this month, but I am going to this week. I've actually got some time, so start new book. And I did go into Google and I did an image search for the book. So this is what I'm going to start reading. I was given it as a gift and I would like to get started. So I'm going to have that there, starting my new book. That will be fun. And let's get back to the rest of my weekly actions. Cooking for joy. So I am going to do one new recipe in my meal plan. So something new to do. Get outdoors. So I think I might try and go for a botanical gardens walk next weekend. And there's a new market that I might check out with my sister. So market trip. Again, I really like to use highlighters to make check marks so that when I do things, I can tick it off, and also it looks pretty. So work and learning, honestly, a lot of my really specific work goals are in my work planner and not the kind of stuff that is internet shareable anyway. But my inbox 0 is definitely important to me. That's a pretty big goal to do all 5 days of the week. Don't know why that sometimes happens when the highlighter mark has a white line through it. Anyway, so 2026 block, I'm going to schedule this. Sometimes I can say I'm gonna do it, but if I don't actually put it onto my schedule, it's not gonna happen. I don't actually think that I need to write about using my planning system, and this one is done. I've got my calendar mapping is done, so I don't need to add that there, but I am going to put in my bullet points. Family and relationship, got a friend breakfast on the weekend. I don't need to put it in my weekly actions to call home. I do that all the time. So organize family get together, and this also happened, so I can tick that off. So you can see that there's definitely a pretty easy flow to using this system. It's really helpful to see kind of bigger picture goal and then narrow down on what your actions are going to be. So eat to nourish my body. For me, that means that I need to do a meal plan and then meal prep. Move my body 4 times a week, so movement. This time for tracking that, I don't need to have it like day by day like I did with some of the others. I really just want 4 dots for 4 exercise events. I don't know, 4 times exercising. And same for my stretch goal. Instead of having to do that again, you can just lasso, copy, and then move it down there. Okay, for my spiritual and personal growth, meditation twice. I'll do all my highlighting at the end. So meditate times 2. Daily journaling is proving to be not the easiest thing in my life. So reading or a podcast just once. I did get the new Brene Brown book this week, but I think it's more kind of work leadership more than the personal growth. So the Maxi system means weekly actions and reflections. Club Maxi this month is all about personal curriculum. So I'm going to write PC. I am making my personal curriculum about learning more about how to manage a YouTube channel, because that's really new to me. So I did take off my savings goal. Again, some things don't need to be shared on the internet. So I don't actually have weekly or pay cycle savings goals. I always just have an end of the month savings goal. So that's not going to be applicable for this week. And my November budget I'll do a bit later, but I will do my weekly spending wrap, and I will do daily spending tracking, and I do have a goal to have a low spend week. Subscriptions audit, I have time for that. So this week I will have time. Now, because I'm going to do it like for like, you can actually lasso from one, and if you do a long hold, you can move it over to the other page. That's pretty cool, isn't it? Okay, and then physical environment, daily tasks. To me, that just means that I'm doing things around the house each day, whatever it is. Deep clean and decluttering, one decluttering zone. It might be my bathroom shelves. I've got a master list that I'm choosing from. Not cleaning out the car this week. So I'm done with those monthly goals, so I can slide it off, and let's just go back in with my highlighting. So those 4 items, if I'm doing something once, I don't need any additional tracking because I would just tick it off. My meditation, I'm happy with the app that I've been using for that. I don't always put in these tracking dots. I do often, but not always. And financial, so I think I'm using the darker colours, aren't I? And then for home, I do keep all of my colour coding in order as well, in order as the areas of life go. I just find it easier that way. So that's the system that I generally use for the flow of doing my weekly reflections and weekly actions each week. Another perk of digital planning is that you can be really comfy and sit on the couch and do that. I don't find paper planning comfy unless I'm kind of sitting at a table. But again, there is no battle between digital and paper planning. I love both of them. I'll always love both of them. But I hope that gave you some ideas in terms of the functionality of how to use a split screen, how to use the goal setting system on the iPad, on GoodNotes. If you have any questions at all, do let me know. And again, launch is coming up on the 16th of October, but you could be watching this video at any time. Okay, bye.